The New Orleans Saints playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Huge NFL game. Adam Trigger is going to join us to take that apart. Eric Pauly at the end of the show is going to look at the Chicago Bears in Atlanta. And Skee has some NBA for us. Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. My co-host is Teddy Covers, and you're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Adam Trigger right off the bat. Adam, nice to have you, my friend. I see you've been tanning.
No, that's just a joke. I got a different light that doesn't make me look so pale. The other one was too white, and then of course I'm on a show with Zinno, who's clearly just always tan 12 months out of the year. And people are like, man, Trig looks sick next to Zinno. So I said, I got to get myself a new light that's not so white. And here I am with I guess this would be my natural skin color, especially since it's Syracuse. It's December. So yeah, exactly.
Teddy?
We've got a bowl game that's starting in less than 2 hours that you want to talk about. That will be Virginia Tech and Tulane in the Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland. Again, starting 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern today. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing Virginia Tech minus 10.5. There are 11s popping up. Total 43.5. Does Tulane have a quarterback for this game? And what do you expect to see between the Green Wave and the Hokies?
So, Teddy, I'm hoping the quarterback's Kai Horton. He hasn't played since week 3. But there's talks that Tulane's probably going to play some of these guys. Some of the transfer portal guys may play. Horton should start, at least that he's rumored to possibly be starting. So that would be nice if we get him. But listen, Tulane's not a team that's going to throw it all over the place anyway. They like to establish the run, which may actually work here since it's going to be in Annapolis, Maryland. Similar to Syracuse, New York. Very cold, rainy day there today. You start to look at the total down to 43.5. It certainly, suggests a lower scoring game. Both of these teams like to run the ball, like to play slower. So now that you're up at in 10.5 range, I think you've got to start to look at Tulane. And that's the way I looked here, was Tulane plus 10.5, willing to punch back at the market a little bit. I did a show last week with Brian Power about this very topic. And I'm actually a little disappointed in myself that I didn't take my own advice more. Because this has been a decent strategy this bowl season so far. Not so much the last 2 years. The last couple of years, you've been able to lay any number, chase the steam, and cash tickets. But this year, if you tried to do it yesterday, you were 0-3. Of course, Minnesota went off, I think, as far as 1.5. I think that got down to. They win the game. If you jumped in late with Kansas, you got the money at 8.5, 9, 10, 10.5, whatever it was steamed down to yesterday. Good example last week with Texas San Antonio getting bet all the way down to 7 and then blowing out Marshall. So I think this one, you're late to the party. If you wanted to bet Virginia Tech, I think you kind of missed the boat on that. And I'm going to go the other way. I think this is a game that ends up probably being a lower scoring game. I think both of these teams are going to want to run the ball. I still think Tulane's defense, which obviously has had guys opt out, is still going to be able to play here. And I'm just not fully buying Virginia Tech being 10 points better than Tulane. I watched a lot of this Virginia Tech team in the ACC this year, 6-6, and really kind of, beat the bottom of the conference to get to 6 wins. They lost to Marshall earlier this year. Drones has been a lot better for them at quarterback, but I can't justify them being a 10.5 point favorite here, Teddy. So I took the points with Tulane and made it a 4% best bet.
So we might call today the opt-out bowl day. Obviously Tulane's got a lot of issues. North Carolina's got a lot of issues. USC has a lot of issues. Texas A&M has a lot of issues, all playing today. And basically we've seen the money in large part come against those squads. But when it comes to a team like Tulane that not only has the opt-outs, not only has lost the quarterback and potentially the backup, not only has lost the wideouts and much of the skill position talent, the coach is gone. Leaving to take the Houston job. And how much does the Willie Fritz's departure affect your handicap here?
Well, I certainly don't think Willie Fritz is worth 10 points. And like all things equal, like if this game were to be played and everything was Tulane was full strength and everything was just normal, I make Tulane like a slight favorite in this game. So I like and the most of the coaching staff is coming back to coach the bowl game. So the guys that are also leaving that like a lot of them are coaching the bowl game. It's just Fritz that's not going to be there as far as I know. So of course it's something that's meaningful, but I don't think it's 10. Yeah, I don't think it's worth 10 points like that to me. Where we're at in the market now, 10.5. If I make this closer to a pick with these two teams full strength, I just think that this is too big of an overreaction. And if you get some of these portal guys or kind of fringe guys that Tulane, we're not really sure if they're going to play in this game. If some of them play, it's just an added advantage. Again, Virginia Tech, I've watched this team all year. They had two chances to prove themselves late in the season, Teddy. NC State and Louisville. Louisville destroyed them, and they lost to NC State. All of those other wins were like they caught Syracuse in what was a terrible spot for Syracuse. I think Wake Forest played them with a third-string quarterback. So it's a team that's fortunate to get to 6 wins, in my opinion. And I still think Tulane's at least somewhat equal here.
Adam Trigger joining us, everyone. Exclusive handicapper at WagerTalk.com. And if you like what you're hearing, please take a minute of your time, a second of your time, and hit that like button. Greatly appreciated. We're almost at 140,000 subscribers. Shout out to all of you guys. That's phenomenal. Let's get to 150 by January 1st. It's a big ask, but hey, as I tell my kids, you can't get anything if you don't ask. Adam Trigger, the Saints and the Bucs. I mean, this is a massive, massive football game. Huge implications. They've played each other once already this year in New Orleans. Tampa Bay whooped the crap out of them, 26-9. And now Tampa Bay, one of the hottest teams in the league, 4 in a row. Scoring points, defense is playing well, but you like New Orleans. Tell us why.
So we'll start with the first meeting. Derek Carr tried to play that game with a hurt shoulder. He probably should have sat out that week. He didn't. Off memory, I think he turned it over 3 times. I know he couldn't throw the ball at all. The Saints offense was dreadful in that game. Was actually closer for a stretch than the final score indicated. I think Tampa tacked on a couple scores there, but in the end, the Bucs win 26-9, and I don't think it's a solid representation of like what these two teams would do. Like if you had Tampa and New Orleans play each other 10 times, I don't think that would be the outcome very often. Here, Carr, he's healthier than he was in the first meeting, of course. And he didn't play terrible last week. They lost the game to the Rams, but Chris Olave sat the week before. He came back last week. He was fantastic. And I think the Saints are much better offensively here than they were in the first meeting between these two teams. The other thing I'm willing to bet against is Baker Mayfield. He's played awesome. We'll call it the month of December. Last 4 games, 9 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Usually it's the other way around with Baker Mayfield, but not lately. Hasn't been turning the ball over. He's been playing great. But I don't think that's going to continue to last, and I don't think it's going to last against a Saints defense that's been top 10 in the league all year, top 10 scoring defense, 19.8 points per game. But more importantly, Prez, if a team's going to know Baker Mayfield, it's going to be the Saints. Second time they're going to see him this year. They, of course, saw him plenty when he was with the Panthers. So I'm kind of willing to bet on the Saints defense to be able to game plan for the Bucs here. And we know the Saints run defense is really good. So Mayfield's going to have to throw the ball. And I think they might be able to bait him into a mistake or two. And I'm kind of counting on that to be the case if the Saints are going to win this game. When the Bucs lose the turnover battle, Prez, this year they're 0-3. They just haven't lost it in a while. They've like I said, Baker's been better taking care of the football than usual. Just 1 interception during this win streak. So, that's one thing I'm willing to bet against. And of course, going back to the first meeting, Carr playing through the injured shoulder. The Bucs are going to see a much better Carr. I think they're going to have a hard time with Olave. And I just think the Saints are going to be able to put some points up here. So when you add all those things up, and we're betting numbers, not teams, I think getting 3 with the Saints is a pretty good deal here. I'm just willing to fade the Bucs at their peak. I think this might be the peak for them. They caught the Jags in kind of a banged up spot last week. So I like the Saints. I think it's great value at the 3, and I'll take New Orleans here with the points.
So right now, we're in week 17 of the NFL season. New Orleans has covered 4 point spreads all year. They've been one of the worst point spread teams in football. Tampa's 10-5 against the number. They've been one of the best point spread teams in football. What makes you think that the markets, this is the week that the markets have finally caught up with how weak New Orleans is and how good Tampa is, given that the markets have been lagging behind both of these teams basically all year long?
So, Teddy, I know we've had this discussion on this show before. I could care less of what the numbers are in the past weeks. Like, I just care about this game. I tend to not look at I factor those types of trends into my handicap almost zero. I'm really looking at this game and why I think the Saints can cover in this spot. But some of those numbers are the reason I think you're getting like what I consider to be an inflated number with the Bucs here. So I try to pick the spot to jump in and oppose what I think is the inflated number. I think some of what you're talking about serves to inflate the number a little bit, and then it's just like trying to add everything up, like going back to the first meeting. So, Carr wasn't 100%. That's, if you look at the first meeting, it's pretty easy to determine, oh, that was the week after Carr hurt his shoulder. He probably shouldn't even have played there. That score is also being taken into consideration when they're kind of pricing out this game. And then it's just the Bucs have been super fortunate, in my opinion. They seem to catch teams at the right time. And, I'll tip my cap to them. They've made the plays. It's still tough to win games in the NFL. Like, no one's handing them these wins. But you talk about a divisional game, the magnitude of the game that Prez already pointed out. And I just think that I'm getting a very playable number here with the Saints, and a Saints team that maybe isn't as bad as they've looked earlier in the season. So all of those things are going to put me on the Saints plus the points. It just feels like the right time to oppose Tampa Bay.
There we go. Adam Trigger, everyone. What do you got to promote?
So we have a special at WagerTalk right now. It's the rest of the NFL season. I have not posted the individual brick for this yet. I'm going to have a 5% play in the NFL this weekend. I like to see the DNP injury reports for Wednesdays before I lock in, but I'm about 95% sure that this will be a 5% play, which would be covered under that package. I'll be posting it individually, and I'll be going for 5 straight 5% winners. I'm 4-0 on 5% plays so far in the month of December, and I expect to cash a 5th one this weekend. So check out that special, which is good for any handicapper. And if you just want the individual play, I'll probably have it up by the end of the day as soon as I'm able to confirm the roster news that I'm looking for.
There we go. Wonderful stuff. Adam Trigger, everyone. Teddy covers. Before we get into what did bettors learn, real quick from me, and then I got to tell you what one of the guys wrote in the chat room. Guys, I got 2 big plays going tonight. One is specifically in hockey. That's my bet of the day. Since the beginning of the NHL season, I am 18-3 in NHL moneyline bets. Legit. 18 wins, 3 losses. I've also won 8 in a row. I have a 4% NHL moneyline bet tonight. Do not miss that play. And if you buy my all access, I have an NBA total, and I also have my 3rd college football bowl bet this season, and I am 21-8 in college football bowl bets over the last 3 years. Teddy covers. I tell you, our listeners are smart. Fortinote writes, I love how the weight and duration of Teddy's so provides insight to whether you agree or disagree with the guests. And I find the exact same thing, brother. The way you ask your follow-up question, the tone, and he's right, the time and duration, read between the lines and you're going to make a lot of money watching this show. So, Teddy, you clearly were not with Adam Trigger on the Saints there. Is that a yes or a
I
no?
wasn't against him. It's not a game I expect to play.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure I've got tells.
Yes.
I've got tells at the poker table. I'm sure I've got tells here, and I pay. And at the poker table, you're trying to hide them. Here, I don't try to hide them at all. I don't care. So if you guys can read me, more power to you.
What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
First, breaking news right now, and the line's moving as we speak. Just worth noting, Russell Wilson has been benched by Sean Payton. Jarrett Stidham's been named the starter, and the money coming for the Chargers right now. So that just popped up. I figured I would let you know we are your sports center for gamblers. Let's talk about what I learned last night. And I can't say it's the best feeling in sports betting, because the best feeling in sports betting is when you win life-changing money, or even any kind of a big score, a 5-figure score, a 6-figure score, a $500,000 that the guy in a Santa suit won when McCaffrey scored a touchdown in Niners-Ravens on his 14 different guys to score a touchdown parlay, when Carm wins $100,000. The best feeling in sports betting is the big score, unquestionably. But as a capper, the second best feeling is handicapping a freaking game right. When it plays out just like you wrote it up in your write-up, when the thought process is correct, when it cashes with room to spare, double digits, rocking chair, whatever that. And I had one of those last night with the Kansas UNLV over. It played out like I wrote it up. Big play touchdowns, one after the next. The second half was full of them. Bunch of money for UNLV on the under on game day. Sharps got that one wrong. And that's a good feeling. Bowl season, everyone's bitching about how hard bowl season is this year, and it is. I'm not playing many games, but I haven't lost one since the opening Saturday of action. Heating up right now. We'll see if we can keep it going with my bowl best bet tonight on Wednesday, Lawrence. But that's a good feeling. I like getting games right. It's the second best feeling in sports. That's what I
dude. Well, and for me, if guys who buy my all access or my plays, oftentimes I actually provide a score, 31-13. And man, when you hit that, whoa, that's the best of all, brother. When you get the score right on the nose. Anyway, I watched, listen, maybe you and Isaac have some time off this in the next 10 days. Who knows? I watched Top Gun again last night, Top Gun Maverick. It just came out on Netflix. Teddy, sit down with your boy and watch this movie. For an action movie, it really is. It really, really is well done. If you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing. And Isaac will love it, dude. Like, legit.
Dude, I saw it 40 years ago. I don't need the remake.
New one.
Oh, okay. What's the difference?
Oh, Skee Profit joining us, everyone. What's the difference? Shut up, Teddy.
What's the difference between the one I saw 40 years ago and the new one? What's the difference?
Skee, did you see the new one?
I have seen neither.
Okay. Teddy, the new one is way better than the original one. As from my perspective, it's non-comparable.
Is it the same plot?
No, it's you know what?
It's a different story.
I found it, although there is a lot of action and whatnot, I found the character development was exceptional.
I'm asking a very simple question, Lawrence, that you don't seem to be able to answer. Is it the same story, or is it a different story?
It's a slightly different story.
It's the same story. It's a couple of recruits. They go, they're the Top Gun. Yeah, I've seen it before, dude. Thank you.
Okay, you know what? Bugger off. Dan, take him off
I'm trying.
the screen. Skee, I'm sorry you had to put up with that shit. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, my brother. It's nice to see you. We're going straight into some NBA talk. The Cavs +4 against the Mavs. You got the rhyming game here. Which Avs should cover?
Well, you have a Mavericks team who is on the front end of a back-to-back for this one. They have the Timberwolves tomorrow. And just thinking about which game they would care more about, they're going to see the Cavaliers, once a year? And it's out of conference compared to the Timberwolves, who I think already beat them by close to 20 and are in conference. I think that's the game that they care about. The Mavs so far, 4-7 against the spread versus competition. When I talk about competition, I mean 55% win teams or greater. And Mavs on the front end of a back-to-back so far this season. 2-4 straight up, 1-5 against the spread. You have a Luka Doncic who's a little bit banged up, left quad soreness. You might not even be able to count on him to be out there tonight. And if he's not, I absolutely want nothing to do with this Mavericks team. They're at the rest disadvantage. This Cavs team has 3 days rest compared to 1. This is their role so far this year. They're 6-2 as a road dog. When they play competition, they step up. 9-5 against the spread versus 55% when teams are greater. They've covered 4 of their last 5 games, so they're playing well right now. And if you look at the last 5 game stats, they're the number 2 offensive rated team, and they're a top 10 rebounding team. If they can do both of those things tonight, I think they're more than capable of winning this game. And as far as Donovan Mitchell is concerned, they've been doing a lot of this without him. He's been out for the past 7 days with an illness. I mean, it's been 3 days since their last game. He's had more than enough time to get over it. So I'm expecting to see him out there on the court tonight. I think the Cavs are live as underdogs.
So Cleveland's shorthanded. Obviously, they've been playing without Darius Garland and Devin Mobley and been doing fine without that duo. But now some of the role players are getting hurt. Sam Merrill's not going to play tonight. He's been phenomenal for them in recent games. Ty Jerome's not going this evening. Karis LeVert is a question mark. And obviously Mitchell, we don't know if he's going to go or not. So when you have a team that's already lost some depth, and now they may have a bunch more depth that's out tonight, how concerned are you, even with the rest edge for Cleveland?
See, that's the key right there. I think the rest is very key. If this was a game where it's either 1 day rest or back to back, might not be able to trust them. But being off 3 days rest, you can expect majority of the minutes to be played by this starting lineup. So in comparison to the Mavericks, who have to save some of those minutes for their game tomorrow, save some of that energy. So I think we'll see majority of the good players for the Cavs and not so much for the Mavericks. I'm not worried.
Skee Profit is not concerned. Skee, before we get into your next game, what do you have to promote?
I do have a top play up. It's a 4% best bet in the association. I did fall off on my last one, so I think that makes me 45-11. My last 56. 4% NBA plays or better. So one that stands out to me tonight is up and available on my page.
That's an incredible record. 45-11?
Yes, sir.
Sheesh, those are like Top Gun numbers. Anyway, yes, a lot of people in the chat were not loving Top Gun. American Made was a good film, Profit writes. Yeah, it was actually American Made. I agree. American Made was a good film. I suggest that one, Teddy. You haven't seen the part 1 before. Anyway, Skee Profits, Suns and Rockets. I was on the Rockets last night. Did not go well for me. Back-to-back situation here. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, when I pick my games to come on the WagerTalk Today, I'm more times than not, if the Rockets play, I want to talk about it with Teddy because I feel like that's a team that he has a good read on. So when I give my opinion and I see the way he replies, it helps me out with the game. It should help everybody else out too. So with this one, Rockets on a back-to-back. You have Dylan Brooks, who got a little bit banged up. He has a strained oblique. We might not see him out there tonight. And I think that is a little bit of a recipe for disaster versus Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. As good as Houston has been defensively as a team, I don't see any guys who can stay with those two on this roster. So I just think it's a bad matchup. You have Van Fleet, who played 39 minutes last night. I believe Şengün played around 36 or 37, something like that. So you could also get more players ruled out as the day goes on than Dylan Brooks. This Suns team has been pretty poor. They failed to cover 6 games in a row, and they haven't been good as a road favorite this year. They've had a lot of inconsistency with the lineup. I do like that Nurkic is expected to come back. I just think it's a little bit telling that the Suns have lost, 3 games in a row now, and they're a road favorite here, and the line continues to move in their favor. They're coming off of an embarrassing loss, and it's time for them to get back on track. They do have a big 7-game homestand coming up, and I believe, if you bet on the Suns every single game until that homestand is over, starting tonight, that you will make money. Even if you don't make money tonight and you continue to do it, I think you'll make money in those games. So I'm willing to jump on it tonight. As far as the total is concerned, I did want to mention it. So far this season, home teams on back-to-backs, 65.6% to the over, 42 and 22. Teams coming off playing the Pacers, for one, it takes a lot out of you to play that pace for the entire game, and it's hard for you to get back to your own pace. So unrested teams coming off playing the Pacers so far this season, 3-0 to the over. And I already talked about I don't trust the Rockets to match up well defensively with the Suns. So I like this game over. I like the Suns side. I have a feeling Teddy will disagree, but I'm curious to hear.
Well, it's my job to disagree, Skee. But so I'm not riding the Rockets anymore. The Rockets were great, easily my favorite team for much of November and into December. But we saw the markets had caught up with them, and they've failed to cover 4 of their last 6. So this isn't pro Houston anymore. They were an underpriced team, and they're no longer an underpriced team. But Phoenix has been an overpriced team, very overpriced. They've been a point spread disaster. What makes you think that right now is the time to buy low on the Suns? Because all I see is the same crap out of this team. They just keep losing and keep losing as favorites. Their last 13 games, they've won twice by more than the point spread they're being asked to lay tonight. They beat Washington by 4, and they beat Memphis, or Memphis at their lowest, by 7. They're not beating anybody by margin right now. What do we like about Phoenix?
Well, talking about them being overpriced, I don't think they are anymore. Everybody's seen how poor they are. Everybody's seen they don't have a winning record. They are, however, and I was coming into the season, I thought it would take time for this team to come together with the new pieces. But here we are, they opened at -1. That's pretty much just asking them to win. And, road favorites with more rested road favorites versus unrested teams, they win close to 70% of the time, 69.8% of the time. So if Phoenix is going to get back on track, I think it's tonight. And they're pricing it in a range where I can be interested. So I think the market, like I said before, if you bet on the Suns from now on every game, I think you start to make money. Just like the Clippers turned it around. The Clippers were pathetic, and now they look really, really good. I think this is the time for the Phoenix Suns.
There we go. Skee Profit. Thanks for joining us, man. You've promoted. You've done well. You've handled Teddy. Have yourself a wonderful New Year's, my friend, and we'll see you either next week or the week after. Be well, brother. Teddy, before we get into your big game breakdown, David Havely, a listener, a watcher, a viewer, commented, and I've never seen his name before. And so firstly, David, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Hope you hit that like button. He wants to know if you specifically have any thoughts on the Tulane V-Tech game. I know you did a follow-up with Adam Trigger, but is that a game you're betting or you have any lean towards?
Didn't play it, wasn't close to playing it, would have played Virginia Tech at the opening number, didn't get the opening number, not taking the worst of the number. Clear pass for me.
There we go. We tried, David. We tried. What do you got for your big game breakdown?
Let's talk a little NFL for today's big game breakdown. This one should be fun to discuss and maybe even to watch. That's the New England Patriots on the road at Buffalo to take on the resurgent Buffalo Bills. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing Buffalo -12, total, let's call it 41. As we speak, we have seen some Patriots money, and I wouldn't argue with that concept. The Pats won the first meeting outright. They were 8.5-point dogs back in October. The Bills had won the previous 4, all by 12 or more, not close. And, of course, the 47-17 playoff loss in the postseason back in 2021 that anyone that had the Patriots will probably still remember. But then again, previous years' Bills teams are better than this one. We look at who Buffalo has beaten by 12 or more since week 4. They beat the Jets, and they beat the Cowboys. Not many. Now, admittedly, that is their last 2 home games, which it has been a strong home field of late. That being said, this team's on a 3-game winning streak. They're not desperate anymore. All right. The Pats just won straight up on the road at Pittsburgh. They won straight up on the road at Denver. This quote, I've been reading so many quotes from opposing coaches and opposing teams talking about how good this Patriots defense is. Here's what Josh Allen had to say after that first meeting, talking about Buffalo struggles, which the Bills are still struggling offensively. Quote, "I wish I knew the exact answer because we'd have it fixed by now." Again, this is from October. Our season's not over. It's a long season. It feels pretty bleak, but we're going to figure it out. And yeah, they've won 3 in a row. Looks like they're going to make the playoffs. Winning this one by margin, I think, will be a tall task for the Buffalo Bills. Give me New England plus the points on Sunday in the NFL. And there's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy, you and I are seeing this game differently. I'm doing the NFL presidential address later today. From my perspective, I think Buffalo has a top 3 D unit. I know they're injured right now, but they still seem to get out there and play phenomenally defensively. I don't see New England putting up more than 10 points in this game. Talk about a score prediction, 31-10 for Buffalo. I think you can take Buffalo on the alt line up to -20. That's what type of a blowout I think we're about to see. Want to bet an eyebrow?
No, I like my eyebrows. And
I like your eyebrows too. Yeah, I know. I was just, it's my friend Brian. You know Brian. Every damn thing he wants to bet an eyebrow. I gotta live without an eyebrow. Anyway, we disagree on that one, my brother. But you're not actually going to bet New England, are you?
I have not yet made my NFL selections for the week. It's only Wednesday morning.
Eric Pauly joining us, everyone. Guys, if you want a presidential address, only 10 more likes. How are you, Eric?
Doing well, gentlemen. Hope you guys had great holidays. Hope all the viewers had a very Merry Christmas.
I'm sure they did. Eric, Buffalo or New England? Teddy likes the Pats. I like the Bills. You want to come on and break the tie?
Yeah, I'll go with the Pats there.
So Eric likes the Bills as well. So there you go, Teddy. 2 Bills, 1 Pats. Eric Pauly from the Gold Sheet. You've got a prop bet for us on Thursday night. Let's start there, and then we're going to take apart the Bears and Falcons game.
Yes, sir. So not the prettiest Thursday night game. We have a ton of matchups this week with major playoff implications, and instead we have to watch the Jets on primetime. But I'm actually going to fade David Njoku, tight end of the Browns. Now, he's been really heating up over his last couple of games, especially with Flacco now. Actually, he's cleared his receiving yards in 7 of his last 10 games. But I'm going with his under 49.5 this week. Because after taking a look at some of those games where he went off, he was facing defenses like the Jaguars and Bears where their season-long metrics against tight ends are poor. So it's kind of not surprising to see how he performed really well against those teams. And looking at his kind of last 2 years in his career in a vacuum, now I know obviously there's been a lot of different quarterbacks there, but it's realistically the same offense with Stefanski. And he has only gone over this number in 47% of games this year and only 43% of games last year. So I think we're actually feeding him at the top. And now Flacco's been an absolutely great story. He's been so fun to watch. Since he's been the starting quarterback for Cleveland, their pass rate has shot up exponentially. They're actually one of the pass-heaviest teams in football. But now they're facing a Jets defense that is one of, if not the best pass defenses in all of the NFL. And I expect this kind of, passing renaissance from the Browns to kind of slow down because Stefanski, the, in my opinion, coach of the year, is smart and he attacks the other team's weaknesses. So the Jets have one of the worst run defenses in football. So why are the Browns going to try to sling the ball with Joe Flacco, especially in a game where he's going to be expected to be pressured a ton from this Jets defensive front? So I expect there to just be a lower passing situation. The Jets in general are 4th in neutral pass rate on defense, meaning that teams just run the ball. They don't want anything to do with throwing the football. And Njoku, being a tight end, a lot of production in the middle of the field. Jets, for starters, 3rd in DVOA against tight ends, and also one of the top 3 teams in defending the middle of the field in terms of expected points added. So I expect a lot of running. I expect Njoku to kind of be the not be able to have that same kind of target share and output. So I like Njoku under 49.5 receiving yards on Thursday night.
So you talked about the defenses that we've seen Cleveland face in recent weeks. But the bottom line, and saying that all those are weaker than the Jets when it comes to defending tight ends, the bottom line for me is Njoku's getting a ton of targets, 9, 14, and 8 in 3 weeks with Flacco behind center. He's got 22 catches during that span. When we look at any season-long numbers for Cleveland right now, I got to think they're lying. And the Flacco/Njoku connection has been very real if you've been watching Cleveland the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this the guy you're targeting to fade?
Well, so if you look at the Jets' numbers against any group of receivers, like they're in the top 5 in defending wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s, as well as tight ends. So, like, you're correct, completely correct. David Njoku right now on the course of the season now is having a 21.2% target share, which is easily good for second in the for the Cleveland Browns. But I think I'm more expecting the Browns, like their pass rate over expected the last few weeks with Joe Flacco has been a revelation. Like this team went from being a bottom team in terms of neutral pass rate to now 14th in the National Football League because of how often they're throwing the football. I just expect this to be a game where Stefanski kind of goes back on all this. He's not going to want to have Joe Flacco sitting in a pocket getting pressured because as we've seen with Flacco, it's been a crazy experience. Yes, he's made some great plays and has found some deep balls down the field. He's also due for at least 4, 5, or 6 turnover-worthy plays per game. So I just expect a more run-heavy approach in general. I just don't expect Flacco to be airing the football out too often. So I think that more of their production will come on the ground. And I think his number is just too high. It's a guy who he's normally priced 5, 6, 7 yards lower. So I think we're just catching him at the peak of his market right now for good reason. I think matchup-wise, we'll push this more to a run-heavy game script.
Eric Pauly joining us, everyone. You can find him at the Gold Sheet. Eric, tell us what's going on over there and what do you have to promote?
So Gold Sheet, we have, of course, our final bowl game write-ups coming out over the next course of the week. We have NFL all written up. Of course, I have basketball and college basketball. On WagerTalk, we have our first 2 picks loaded, but the package is not loaded just this second. It'll be up later tonight. Similar to like Trig was saying, I do have my eyes on a 4% play, actually. Just waiting on my final practice reports for this week. But right now I have 2 3% plays loaded, and you're probably getting the best bang for your buck just paying for the all access for the remainder of the season versus getting your packages. So I would highly recommend taking advantage of the Road to the Super Bowl special over at WagerTalk.com for the Gold Sheet.
Awesome stuff. Okay, so let's talk Chicago Bears. They're -3 playing Atlanta. And, I didn't think we would see a Chicago Bears at -3 all year at home, but that is what it is, and it is deserved. They have turned their season around. They're playing much better football. Their defense, since Sweat came in, is a whole different ball game. How are we handicapping this one?
Yeah, so last week, Prez, I was under the same exact thought process as you. They were laying 4.5 against Arizona. Obviously, Arizona is a bottom feeder, but I was thinking, how are the Bears 4.5 points better than anyone? It was a newsletter pick, and as we saw, they blew them out by 1 by 11 there. I expect Chicago to play spoiler for Atlanta. Now, the Falcons undoubtedly need this football game in order to have any shot of making the postseason. And I would lay the 3 with Chicago here. So both teams coming off big wins against different types of competition, against Chicago beating a unserious Cardinals team, while the Falcons put a beatdown on a playoff hopeful Colts team. But I'm not really buying into what the Falcons did on Sunday. So for starters, Gardner Minshew, who they face, is just a much worse quarterback when on the road. And this Atlanta Falcons team, when they're able to run the football, is able to get things going. And they're playing a very soft defense in Gus Bradley's very zone-heavy, not very blitz-heavy defense. So they're able to run the football. Taylor Heineke was able to just make very simple, easy passes, and their defense got after Gardner Minshew all game long. I don't expect that to be the case. Now they're playing outdoors in Chicago this weekend. This Bears defense is 100% legitimate. I've said this for weeks now, so this isn't like a hot take or, a new take. You just watch the games, even look at the box score. You see it. So I expect them to come after Heineke and get a lot of pressure on him. And I'm a Commanders fan, so I watched Heineke play for the last 2 years. When he is under duress, he is a turnover waiting to happen. So I expect that the Bears will be able to get in his face, get pressure, generate turnovers. And then Atlanta, if they can't run the football, this offense is broken, and the Bears have one of the best run defenses in football over the last course of the last 2 months at this point. Then on the other side, the Falcons, they don't really get a ton of pressure, and Justin Fields, when he has time to navigate a pocket, sit in there, and then decide to find a deep ball down the field or just take off and run, that's where he is at his best without facing pressure. So I just think matchup-wise, X's and O's wise, Bears are the better football team. They match up well. So I would actually lead the 3 with Chicago, and I think they'll end Atlanta's season on Sunday.
So you started your analysis by talking about how you got the Bears wrong last week. So did I. So did Prez. but I thought it was an interesting concept. And when you have a team that you got wrong last week, betting against them, do you want to flip and bet on them the next week? Is that something as a handicapper you like to do?
So great.
Because to me, when I find like when I lose betting on a team one week, the next week when I bet against them, I lose just as much. And it's one of those deals where I tap the brakes on those. Have you had a similar experience? And what do you do with a team that you backed one week or that you had a wrong read on one week and now you're looking to go the other way the next week?
Yeah, so that's actually a fantastic question. I think a great teaching point for some viewers. So I'm in a situation where, like, I see where you're coming from, where, like, if you got a team completely wrong, especially in a situation where, like, Chicago blew them out with 1-11 and really wasn't close whatsoever, that you then expect an overreaction in the market the following week. So maybe you're now buying too high on a team. So I think it's actually twofold. So in that case, yeah, you could be kind of laying a trap for yourself to kind of fail again because you're clearly just off on your numbers and compared to the market of how the team is. On the other hand, if you pay kind of close attention to the two teams, and this is a game, I had the Colts also last week, so I was wrong completely on that game too. But I watched both these games very closely, and based on my season-long numbers and what I saw last week, I'm comfortable now saying that I feel very confidently that the Bears are the best team, or the better team here. And my last thought here, just a general macro kind of view. The Chicago Bears coming into the season, their win total was 7.5 or 6.5, depending on what time you got in the market. And now the team is a 6-win team looking for 7 and maybe even 8 wins over the last 2 weeks of the year. So while this Bears team is currently technically overperforming from where they were, 8 weeks ago, in terms of their general market view coming into the season, they're actually performing right on par, while the Falcons are also there, but they've been underperforming as of late. And I don't think beating a Gardner Minshew-led Colts team at home was a really great win. Same thing with the Cardinals and the Bears, but again, just then it goes to the X's and O's, and I think the Bears have the edge. From what I saw last week, very confident that I could say that the Chicago Bears are more than 3 points better than the Falcons, and I expect them to want to play spoiler here as well.
Love it. Eric Pauly, everyone. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Teddy covers. That was a great question. And it's something that it bothers. I don't know what the word is, but it's very much top of mind on a regular basis, regardless of sport. You take the over in the Leaf game tonight, it goes under. You then take the under in the Leaf game tomorrow, it goes over. I did it. I was on Houston 2 weeks ago, I lost. And then I was against Houston. No, I was against it, I lost. Then I was on him, I lost. It is always top of mind for me, and it is for some reason something I actually take into account in my handicap. So, I would never, it keeps me off of plays. It makes me lower units. It drives me bonkers. And I think all of us who bet professionally or recreationally, I think we all notice it when you're wrong, and then you jumped over to the other side and you're wrong again. Great question.
Yeah, I find that, I talked at the top of the show on what bettors learned about things I love about sports betting. One of the most frustrating things is when you're playing flip-flop with the team and you can't get them right. Or when a team is 7-3 against the spread and you've been trying to back them and you're like, wow, I went 0-3 back in this team during that span,
Yeah.
Those frustrate the hell out of me. I've been doing that with the Utah Jazz. The Jazz, every game the Jazz don't play, they win and cover. And every game I bet them, they find a way to lose or lose in overtime or lose by a half point. It's been unbelievably frustrating for me with that team. So you leave them alone for a little while and come back to them.
Yeah, dude, I think New Jersey Devils went over like 8-9 games in a row. I played the over in the 10th game, and it was like 1-0. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Guys, we got over 125 likes. Greatly appreciated. Really love you all. One of our listeners wanted a shout out for absolutely no reason. Just basically wanted a shout out. So, Christopherson Lim, I'm not going to give you a shout out because there was no reason to. Give me a reason. even though I just gave you a shout out. Dan, cue up the daily presidential address. Okay, everybody, it's time for the daily presidential address. I got a couple of hockey bets that I actually love for you guys on this video. Before I get into that, I want to make mention I have a 4% NHL money line bet up tonight. I have won 8 in a row of these plays, and my record on the season is 18 wins and 3 losses. So do not miss this play. Goes tonight. I also have an NBA total, and I have my 3rd college football bowl bet of the season. I'm 1-1 so far this year, but last year I went 15-5 in bowl bets. So I think I'm about to go on a nice fat bowl run. Grab all 3 of those plays over at WagerTalk. Okay, let's get into it. Honestly, this is one of my favorite plays in a while that I haven't released to my clients. I'm really on a roll right now, so I'm keeping my volume low. But I love over 3.5 goals for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Very juicy, -160. I get it. But we need 4 goals out of them against this Ottawa team. That is a bet I am making. I also like the over in the Carolina and Nashville game tonight. That game is set at 6. I think we get easily 7 goals in that game. So I like that as well. Guys, thanks for watching, man. I hope you're all having a wonderful holiday weekend. Teddy, brother, we'll see you tomorrow. Take us home.
Holiday weekend, it's Wednesday. That being said, we'll be back on Thursday, same time, same channel. 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east with your daily Sports Central for gamblers between